And we'd like to welcome to the stage for this intimate conversation, get to know a little bit better, a man who I thought would have been the next mayor of Boston. Not yet, but he's coming. It's a different time.
Not yet.
Not yet. Marty Martinez, HHS chief for the city of Boston. We want to dig in because tonight is really about the road to success. It's also about thank you so much. It's also about seeing how we get to this road.
Right.
And when I think of you, I also think of mentoring, mass mentoring.
Yeah.
And so when you meet somebody as great as you, we have to find out who was your mentor and how you got here.
Oh, well, like most people here, my mentors were a lot of people, right? My mom, a priest, a coach, a variety of folks, right? And I think for me, as someone who, I explored a lot of things as a kid.
Yes.
And was able to connect with a lot of different people. And I think the main thing that was important to me was people who would listen to me. I was the kid in school who always got on the report card, talks too much. Always got talks too much. And for me, my mom was like, that's okay. You can be that kid that talks too much.
Because you said had aggressive advocacy.
Aggressive advocacy. Yes, that was my mother. But that's what it was about, right? So I got to build relationships with those adults in my life who helped me explore things that no one else had ever explored in my own life, and it was powerful. And it taught me like a world that I didn't even know existed. Mm-hmm. It was really valuable. So I had a lot of mentors in my life, and mainly my mother taught me talk to people who were different than you, and learn from them. And that was pretty amazing.
So I love that. So can we just back up a little bit because we sort of jumped to your mentor, but where were you born?
So I was born in, of all places, Omaha, Nebraska.
Did not expect that. Really?
That's where I was born. Yeah, I was born in Nebraska, of all places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Shout out to Omaha, Nebraska.
Right? Shout out to Nebraska.
Okay, and so you're born there, and you said you had a priest, you had a coach.
Yeah.
So where'd the priest come in?
So my mother believed that you should not get confirmed in the Catholic Church until you were old enough to know what it meant. And so I didn't get confirmed until I was 17.
Okay.
And I was 17, which meant I was in catechism. I was in adult catechism classes. And I met a priest. And he would tell my mom, like, I would read the Bible verses and everything we were doing. And I would always ask, but why? But what about this? And what does that mean? Eventually I think he realized I was going to keep asking that.
Yes.
And he just ended up being a great support for me. And it was I learned a lot from him. He opened doors for me to think about college and other programs and services, which was really great. I'm the first in my family to go to college.
Really?
And so when I thought about going to college,
yes.
Yeah, I'm super proud of that. Absolutely. And my mom said, go to college. And I love her, but she didn't actually know what that all meant.
Exactly.
But she knew I was going to do it. And if you met her, you knew that I was going to do it because I didn't have a choice. But that's amazing. So you had to have those other supports. So that's the kind of supports that I had, and the kind of relationships that helped me sort of achieve things that I couldn't even dream of at the time.
I love it. So, I mean, when you hear Omaha, Nebraska, then you hear Boston, Massachusetts.
Right.
They're so similar. No, just kidding.
Right.
So what was that road?
Right. So I came to Boston to go to graduate school.
Okay.
And I got here at 21 years of age. I've been in Boston longer than I was in Nebraska at this point. And I moved here. I didn't know a single soul. I had never been here before when I landed.
You just picked the school?
I picked the school. I got it. I went to Tufts. I got a fellowship through the Kellogg Foundation to go to Tufts.
Yes, yes.
So it was great. And I got here, and my roommate I met through the university, and him and his wife picked me up at the airport.
That is odd. Okay.
And it was a crazy experience. And I will say the thing that I didn't realize when I got here is that they were at the time. This was in the late '90s. there were very few Mexicans in Boston, Massachusetts.
Well, were there a
still
lot in Omaha?
There are a lot
What?
of Mexicans in Omaha,
I'm loving
Nebraska.
Omaha. Okay.
Yeah, because in the Midwest, there were a lot of Mexican Americans who went for farm work and
Right.
field work, and so that was my family. So when I got here, I didn't realize that, and that was a huge shock to me that I would meet Latinos and they would be Puerto Rican or Dominican, and at the time I was like, what? Like, I didn't understand that there weren't a lot of Mexicans, and so that was one of the biggest shocks coming here. People would be like, oh, there's lots of Latinos in this neighborhood or that neighborhood, but it took me a while to realize that it was different. But it's been great, and 23 years in Boston. Obviously, I've dived right in, and
You
I
didn't
love
go
this
back
place.
home. Yeah.
No, this is my city, Dorchester.
Shout out.
You're a Dorchester person. I'm
Yeah.
now a Dorchester person. But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
So because we're talking about the road to success and your connection with mentoring
Right.
and sort of digging a little deeper, but I want to understand, because everybody in here, many people are not born here. They've sort of landed in different ways, maybe school. What did you hear about Boston as a native Bostonian? I know that our reputation is interesting. You arrived sight unseen. So did you hear about the racial reputation?
Yeah, I mean, I got here and people said, well, you'll go to school here and then you'll move and you'll go to somewhere else.
Who told you that?
Almost everyone that I interacted with when I went to school. I worked at an organization when I first got here. I got here and I got a job within 2 weeks. Not because I'm like a hard worker, but because I was broke, right? And so I got here.
So you were motivated.
I'm motivated, right? So I got here and I worked at an organization called Latino Health Institute, which did health and social services for Latinos in Boston. Doesn't exist anymore, but that's where I worked. And when I got here, they said, oh, you're gonna come here, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna go to graduate school, but you're gonna leave because Boston's not a place for Latinos or diverse populations. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that's true. And I did, I went to school, and if you would have told me in 1999 that in 2021 I would still be here, working for city government, doing the work that I'm doing, I would have never, ever believed it. But so many people gave me, resources and supports and believed in me at times when I didn't believe in myself, or I questioned, should I really be here? Am I really, is this a job? Is this the role that I should be in? And that's why I'm still here today. And that path has been laid out for me, and I have no regrets in any way.
I love it. When we all listened, we heard your speech, you talked about your number one mentor, which is your mom.
Yeah.
And did the aggressive advocate come to Boston? What'd she think?
Yeah, she did.
What's her name? I would love to know.
So her name is Marian. Mariana, but she went by Marian oftentimes. And she came here. So, she came here many times before she passed, and liked the city, loved the city. She always questioned why there were so many people walking around all the time. And if you're from the Midwest, there's not people walking around all the time in the middle of the day. So she questioned.
Oh, we're walkers.
There were walkers, right? She questioned that. But I will tell you, I think you may know this. I have run for office before. I ran for city council in Somerville before, and ran hard and worked hard and lost, but learned so many things. And my mom came when I ran for office. And so she came and ran for office and held signs and door knocked and called voters. And my mom, there was not a passive bone in my mother's body.
I'm laughing because I understand that.
Yeah. So she had a tough time, the persuasion of trying to get someone to vote for someone she didn't believe in. She believed in, this is my son, this is why he's the best, are you voting for him? She knew as we just get through an election, she didn't know any of how to persuade people. So she came here many times.
So she walked up on people and said, hey, you're voting for my son?
Absolutely. She was aggressive. She walked up on people. She did it in English. She did it in Spanish. She had no, And if they didn't vote for me, or they said, oh, I'm not voting for him, or I don't know anything about this, she was aggressive in her response. And so that was a difficult. It was a little
uncomfortable, I'm sure.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But again, one of the things I'm so grateful for my mother is that there was many experiences she never had. She didn't go to college. She didn't do many of those things that I've had an opportunity to do. But she never limited my expectations. And I just I'm so grateful for that, because she basically was no matter what I wanted to do, whether she understood it, whether she believed in it, no matter what it was, she'd always say, go for it. Give it a shot. See what it means. See what happens. And a failure was never, I failed many times, and hopefully many people understand that failure teaches you something. And she always said, who cares? You'll get up, you'll keep moving. And I'm so grateful for that, from someone who never had all those experiences, but ingrained in me, give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, who cares? You get up the next day and you keep going. And I'm so grateful that she taught me that. It was a real lesson.
So you and I first met when I worked for NECN,
Yeah.
and you came on and you were talking about mass mentoring, and my husband went for that job, by the way. So it was interesting to meet you because you had the job that my husband went for.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, honey, he deserved the job over you. Hope he's watching.
No, he's watching.
So, but you did deserve the job because and I didn't know that you went from, obviously, you were born in Omaha and your mom's story, but there's something about you that I believe that you truly saw the value in a child or a young person meeting the right adult.
Right.
The right adult who would see a child and see the potential, see the gift, see the diamond in the rough, no matter where they came from.
For sure.
And so what is it about your time at Mass Mentoring? Tell me some stories that really connected with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. I mean, I think for so many young people, being able to find someone who believes in them and connects with them, unfortunately, is rare.
Yes.
And that's hard, right? I mean, when I was at Mass Mentoring, I started mentoring myself. Didn't have the privilege of mentoring or tutoring through EVkids, but even though I got to know EVkids at that time, but I did mentor through another program, and I used to go to Burke High School and mentor regularly. And I bring that up because I mentored 3 different students at Burke over 5 years.
Well, for context, I know the Burke, and what you're not saying is that the Burke, if you don't know it, in Boston, was a school that was, the state basically was like, it's failing so bad, we're going to come in and fix it. And and you chose the school that was considered one of the worst in the city. Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely. And so I would mentor students, and I would come in, and I had one student for 2.5 years that I mentored from his freshman year to his junior year. And we would go in, and I would mentor him, and this was towards the end of Mass Mentoring before I went to the city. And it was an opportunity to connect with this young person. And he would say to me, almost on a regular basis, I hate it here. I don't want to be here. This isn't what I want to be doing. And instead of being someone who said, no, this is what you should do, I was really about, well, tell me why. Let's talk. Let's build connection. Let's build relationship. And he ended up finishing school and going into a vocational program. But what was so important for me in that moment was to not try to tell him what I thought he should be or tell him what I thought his path should be, but to listen and to have conversation and to connect with him. And he was a young man that the school, to be honest with you, needed more support at school. So I would come in, and I was the CEO of a nonprofit, and the one appointment that I would never reschedule was my Wednesday morning appointment at the Burke.
Really?
Because I would make sure that I would go there and I would see him. And why not? Because if I did have to miss that, the next week, the session would start with him angry at me, having an attitude with me. And I'd come and I'd instantly say, I'm sorry I couldn't come last week. And he'd be like, whatever, it didn't matter to me. But I could tell that he was irritated. And he was irritated because I let him down. And I think that one of the things that's most important to me is that young people need people who they can count on. And that's what I think we all want to do, right? I mean, that's what EVkids is doing. That's what so many of our mentoring programs are doing and tutoring programs, is someone you can count on. What happens in the moment is almost less important than the fact that you're there.
Right.
And so for me, I loved the ability to do that, to be able to make that happen. When I went to the city, the young man loved the fact that my title at the city's chief.
Yeah.
And so he loved to call me chief. He thought it was the funniest thing. And at the time, I worked for Marty Walsh, so he loved to call me the other Marty. He thought it was great.
He's good.
It was good. He was a smart kid. But the reality is that what he got from me was not, I mean, we were tutoring and going through English language arts and other things, but more so what he got from me was someone who just believed in him, right? When he needed a summer job, he called me and said, can you help me? I'm like, yeah, let's figure it out. We're gonna fill out an application, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And at the end of the day, it's just showing up. Yep. And so I think that for me, you know, I wish I could do that for more young people. And I just wish every young person, you know, I wish you could ask every young person who's showing up for you today. And if they have someone that can tell you they're showing up for them, I think it would improve greatly so many of the issues that we all really want to make better.
Well, that's beautiful. When you visited EVkids, because I know you love the program,
yeah,
and then you're of course the youth champion. There's so many things I love about EVkids, but for people sitting here, and I know people here know the program, but what stood out to you? You talked a little bit about it, but
yeah.
What were shining stars to you in that program?
Yeah. I think what was shining stars when I met these two matches that were there, two pairs. They had been together for several years. Mm-hmm. I think one was 3 years, one was 4 years. And what I loved about it is that they were working through schoolwork and working through, you know, math and this and that. And without a doubt, I asked both mentors and tutor and tutee, what did you like most? And both of them did not talk about the content. They talked about the person. And to me, that's what it's about, right? I mean, I think the fact that, you know, when the young woman who was the tutor was like, oh, I thought we wouldn't like each other, like, right? Right? I thought we wouldn't like each other, and I thought that wouldn't be great. To me, that was amazing to think, like, you're a college student, you're a high school student, and there's a connection here, and that connection's gonna go well beyond everything else, right? And so for me, that was great. I mean, it was great to hear you talk about the camp, because they also talked about camp.
Which I did not like initially.
You
Let me
did not like
guarantee
camp,
you.
Right?
No. Well, because we're mountain climbing, and I'm like.
Did you sign up for camp?
Well, you know, my mother signed me up.
Exactly.
She was aggressively advocating,
Aggressive advocate.
and I didn't want to be advocated for. You know, I liked the city, and I was like, I'm going to climb like 4 mountains,
right.
And so
right.
so you know,
yeah.
you know. But then I ultimately fell in love,
with
here
that.
I am, a million years later. So
yeah, as a champion, right?
As a champion, yes,
right.
Exactly.
But I think that's the thing, right? For me, when young people talk about this mentor is here, this college student. And I also think the thing that I'll just say, because I think it's important, in both scenarios, the young people were young people of color.
Yes.
And the mentors or the tutors were white.
I'm happy you touched on that.
And I think that that's important to know, because I think also experiencing different people, experiencing that cross-cultural piece is critical. It's important. It's what life is about. And so for me, I can't stress that enough, that I thought it wasn't something that came up in my conversations, but it was something that was sitting in my mind. As someone who lives in Dorchester, I live in Upham's Corner. I live in a very diverse neighborhood with me and my husband, and we love the neighborhood we live in, and it's very diverse. And I think we are better people for that diversity. And I think that that's a powerful piece, to have young people and adults connect in a cross-cultural setting, and have that be just part of the context, but the relationship we build is more important than whether or not we're different people or different backgrounds. And so to me, that was something meaningful to me in an observation that really never even came up in the conversation. Right,
and when you look at Susie and Kamaya, they're so delicious in so many different ways. I mean, and they're both, I talked about Kamaya's potential and how she was dripping, but Susie as well.
Yeah.
The tutor. I mean, I asked her what she wanted to do ultimately in her career. I mean, we know Kamaya wants to have a nail salon to the stars,
right.
But Susie, I think she wants to do social service. She wants to do business and help businesses on the social side be. I don't even know. She's smarter than I'll ever be at Northeastern, and she's in her 2nd year, but. I just think EVkids catches them at a critical time for both of their lives. Yeah. You know, they're both becoming who they are. They're both in transition.
Right.
And they're both sort of developing who they are going to be. And so it's just the strangest most awesome
Yeah.
moment where they can both connect and give back to each other, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I mean, when I looked at, 5 minutes, Jacqueline? Man, I just got started. I'm being my Oprah. No, okay. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. This is, what'd she say, Soul Sundays on Oprah? Anyways, no, thank you. Okay, enough about that. But it's so funny that you brought that up because, I mean, the fact that Susie's learning TikToks, I just
Exactly.
think is so funny.
Exactly.
And Kamaya is learning, like you said, that no matter what, EVkids will show up and make a way when there's no way because she moved from Mattapan, from Dorchester to Mattapan,
Right.
thought she was going to be out of the program, and then here's another expanded program, and
Right,
they're still
right.
here. But I think in this 5 minutes, I want to talk to you about, because as we sit here, and as you saw, obviously, adults have gone through awful things in this pandemic.
Right.
Our kids are
Yeah.
going through ridiculously tough things
Yeah.
without the language. And so we have to truly figure out ways to support them, whether it's financially or otherwise.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, as we think about what we've been through COVID, which has been such a challenging time for all of us, I think for young people, I think we sort of lose sight of the fact that there is still so much support that's needed. Right. And I think as we think about the physical health, right, hopefully we're getting vaccinated and protecting ourselves and doing all those really important things, which is key. But the vaccination does literally nothing for our mental wellness and health.
Yep.
And to me, that is a huge piece for our young people. There's no question that young people have been through it, right? I mean, I remember sitting in the mayor's office with Mayor Walsh and the superintendent talking about whether or not we were going to have to close our public schools. And when we talked about closing our public schools, mind you, we talked about we're going to have to close our public schools and we might have to do it for 3 or 4 weeks. That's what we talked about. 3 or 4 weeks. Hello, that's not, right?
That's not what happened.
Right? And so I say that to you then because even then we were like, what are kids gonna do for a month not in school? And now you think a whole year later and all these young people experienced isolation and distance and separation and loss of learning and loss of connection to teachers and school leaders who've done so many amazing things. So I do think that connection and that support around mental health and wellness cannot be, the need cannot be understated. It's important. I think our schools are trying their hardest. Our teachers and our school leaders, I applaud them every single day because they are our heroes on behalf of young people showing up and doing that work. And we have to make sure that we not only give room and space around mental health and wellness, but that we let people say it's okay to not be okay. And you might not know what that means, but to give space to that. And I think young people need that more than others. I think adults need it too.
Here.
Right. But I do think that young people haven't necessarily had the space to be able to articulate that. And I think we need to do more. That's why we see some of the challenges we see. And so I just think that's so big. And I think our schools will take not just, a month or two, but will take a lot of time to truly recover and get back to a place where, learning is, celebrated and where we all want to be. But that mental health piece is really key.
So I guess we're almost out of time, but I want to leave folks with, when I see you and what you exude is joy. And so, what's your secret? Like, how do you choose joy? How do you take care of yourself? Give us a little of the Marty magic.
Yeah.
Give us a
Marty
little
magic.
Yes,
Wow,
yes.
That's good. I'm gonna take you with me everywhere I go. I'll tell you.
Let's go.
I wake up to you in the morning every day.
Well,
just so you know.
thank you.
I watch you in the morning. I've been sitting watching you on TV. But what I will say is, I'll just leave with sort of this. This last year and a half of professionally has been like the most challenging but most rewarding of my career in the way that, I always used to say it as a nonprofit leader, like the work you do changes and impacts people's lives. So it matters what you do every day. I don't think I really knew that until I was in this role, sort of responding to COVID with urgency and intense passion and energy, and with a husband who allowed me to work 1,000 hours.
Shout out to Matthew.
Shout out to Matthew. And so thank you for that. But I will also say that this last year and a half to 2 years professionally has actually been some of the loneliest at the same time. And I think that because of the decisions and the intensity that you go through and the intense, observation and spotlight on your decision making is tough to deal with. And I'm not sure it's what I signed up for, but it's what I did. I share that with you because what I also really learned is to take care of myself as much as I could, and to celebrate the good things we've done, celebrate where people have stepped up, give accolades to folks who've done amazing things, and be proud of all that we've done to be resilient. And to help each other. And so that's why I'm joyful. I can be, I get the excitement I get criticized and then kind of for different things for my work. But every single day I roll up my sleeves and I keep doing it because that's what I'm trying to do on behalf of my neighbors. And that's where the joy comes from because I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of the work that I've done and will continue to do. And that's what makes me happy. About doing it, no matter how difficult it is taking care of myself and knowing that tomorrow you have another chance to make a difference in people's lives. So
you are a youth champion. You truly are an inspiration. We love you, Marty Martinez.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Wow.
Thank you.